Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, I think it's becoming increasingly clear in the Trump era that the establishment, the uniparty, the powers that be, the deep state, the big corporate lobbyists that are pulling the strings from behind the scenes, it's becoming increasingly clear that there is nothing they despise more than a man who questions, a man who asks relevant questions, or a man who challenges the orthodoxy. We saw that first with Donald Trump, and then of course we saw that again with RFK Jr. They tried destroying him during the Democrat primary process, and now, well, they've upped the ante. They've mobilized the machine to absolutely destroy RFK Jr. and try to force him into a resignation. And well, ultimately it seems as though it's flopped, it's failed. They've once again fallen flat on their faces, and RFK Jr. is now doing a victory lap. Oh, he stuck it to them all. You know, I've allowed this whole process to play through, but now I want to finally give my 2 cents on the RFK Jr. situation. Let's go ahead and have that conversation, shall we? We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so, you know, they tried everything. We saw it. The Democrats, the corporate media, the deep state, even the uniparty Republicans, Big Pharma's hired guns, all of them went absolutely nuclear on RFK Jr. They dragged him in front of Congress for this pathetic little show trial.
That was your promise.
No, I didn't. I never promised that I was going to recommend products with which there is no indication.
When you said...
And I know you've taken $855,000 from pharmaceutical companies.
You received $300,000 from people, not from the industry, people in it, as I did, from individuals. You corrupt. President Trump got $3 million. Every Republican got corporate PAC money for the pharmaceutical industry. Democrats as well. Everybody is corrupt. But what you said were lies.
You went on Fox News blaming school shootings on antidepressants.
You are carrying out your extremist beliefs, which is why you attempted to fire Dr. Menarez.
Sir, we're the sickest people on earth.
I'm speaking.
Then they sent Chris Christie, of all people, recently to do a media tour for him to go after RFK Jr.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a foolish man, full of foolish and vapid ideas. And that was on display again this week in front of Congress. And I really don't want to hear about Bill Cassidy, because he is a co-conspirator with the President of the United States for putting this wholly unqualified man in charge of 25% of all government spending. Without Cassidy's vote, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. would not be it. And maybe he's feeling some guilt from what he did. But I'll tell you this, the president did this. He knows, the president's smart enough to know RFK Jr. doesn't belong in that job. But after he won, he wanted to show everybody, I can do whatever I want to do because this Senate will be compliant no matter what I do. And I'll put the greatest vaccine and public health denier of the last 20 years in charge of public health in America. It's a human middle finger, George, to everybody who opposed him.
I mean, the irony there just writes itself. Chris Christie, of all people, going after RFK Jr. on the issue of health. Yeah, sure, Chris Krispy Kreme, the guy who's single-handedly keeping Dunkin' Donuts in business. Yeah, he's now the authority that's lecturing us about health policy. But anyways, they pulled out all the guns. They attacked this guy relentlessly. And you know, I noticed one thing throughout all of those attacks. It was never really about policy. Nobody attacked his record or what he was doing specifically. It was nothing but a massive smear campaign, pure and simple. The whole purpose was what they do to Donald Trump. They designed their strategy to brand him as a kooky lunatic, a dangerous guy who's going to cost millions of lives. But of course, they were never able to actually qualify those points. And I guess that's where they ran into their problem. That's where it all fell apart, because none of the attacks were based in fact. They were simply looking for sound bites. They were cherry-picking his quotes out of context and making dramatic declarations, which of course the cable news outlets and the online outlets like the New York Times and whatever were running with to push all their anti-RFK Jr. headlines. But when the dust settled, I think people really realized that they're freaking full of it. RFK Jr. isn't this existential threat to American health. And then that gets put into further perspective as RFK Jr. rises from the ashes and now issues a response to all the haters, let's say, where he actually describes what he's doing.
We have accomplished more already than any health secretary in history. The accomplishments we're going to have by the end of the year are going to be historic and unprecedented, including removing harmful chemicals from our food, including the 9 petroleum-based food dyes. Will either have removed them or have committed deadlines to remove them. Defining for the first time ultra-processed food front of package labeling for ultra-processed foods, requiring nutrition and metabolic health courses in medical schools, something that is not happening except in a very limited way today. Closing the grass loophole, improving food for our military, our schools, and our hospitals, updating water quality standards, including PFAS, removing Medicaid quality metrics to measure real health improvements through fitness and nutrition, working across the government to provide more assistance to farmers to support soil health, unleash innovation, and remove the barriers that hamper small farms. Reforming SNAP by working with states to remove soda and candy from the program. And I want to thank Brooke for her very, very aggressive work and encouraging states to, which we've gone all across the country talking to governors and legislatures to encourage states to file SNAP waiver petitions, establishing, again, front-of-pack food labeling for sugars, for sodium, for ultra-processed foods, reforming infant formula standards, and acknowledging and addressing vaccine injuries. These are bipartisan reforms. Many of them would be unthinkable 2 years ago. We are focusing narrowly on nutrition and metabolic health, food quality, cumulative exposures, gut microbiome, precision agriculture, and mental health. And we're doing all these things with each other cooperatively, and we're doing them very, very quickly.
Yeah, and it doesn't really seem crazy at all. He's talking about making food healthier. He's talking about transparency in the data. And that's one of the craziest things. You know, he's asking questions. He's trying to get to the bottom of certain chronic illnesses and certain, let's call it, health abnormalities that we've seen spiking over the last couple of generations. He's trying to get answers, and the powers that be are stonewalling him. They want you to believe that he's the bad guy when all he wants is for the American people to have access to the truth and the data. He's talking about holding big pharma and medical associations accountable so decisions can be made based on evidence and not profit. Since when is that so dangerous? Well, I think it's obvious at this point that the smears didn't land. I think the people saw right through it, President Trump included, who crucially stood by him.
Do you think of all the establishment attacks on RFK Jr.?
Well, he's a different kind of a guy. He's got a lot of good ideas, but he's got a lot of ideas. You know, normally they don't have any ideas, and that's why we have problems with autism and so many other things, because we're coming up with the answers for autism. You watch. We're coming up with the answers for other things that normal people, regular people, easy to get along with people wouldn't be able to do. He's got a lot of ideas, and so do I, and we're going to clean it up.
You know, he basically says RFK Jr.'s got a lot of ideas, and that's fine. It's not the end of the world. And I think that's the truth. Ideas aren't the enemy. Curiosity isn't the enemy. Questioning experts should not be viewed as heresy. And it seems it's not just President Trump who agrees. It seems the people agree.
Most popular of all the key officials that we have recent polling on, Pete Hegseth, his net favorable minus 14 points, J.D. Vance, minus 11, Marco Rubio, minus 10. RFK Jr. is at minus 7. But minus 7 beats minus 10, beats minus 11, beats minus 14. So, no, RFK Jr. is not a drag on President Trump. He's not the most embattled. In fact, he is the most popular official in Trump's cabinet, at least according to the poll.
RFK Jr.'s approval rating just came out as the highest in the Trump cabinet. It's over 50%. And just think about that. After the full weight of the machine tried to destroy him, he now comes out stronger. Spectacular backfire. And you know what? It's because the American people are not stupid. They know that something is broken. Chronic disease is through the roof. Obesity is rampant. The food supply, in many cases, is garbage. It's filled with chemicals, processed junk. American society is becoming more dependent on pills and medical interventions than ever before, and life expectancy is going down. And now we got these sanctimonious bought and paid for by big pharma politicians telling us that you shouldn't be asking questions. I mean, this idea all the time that we hear that no one should be asking questions. Do you have a PhD? No, you should just shut up and trust the experts. Well, how is that working out? I'm sure it's working great for private healthcare profits, but maybe, just maybe, on the flip side, the people are getting the short end of the stick. It feels like the system has failed. And ultimately, the conclusion for me is that asking questions isn't dangerous. No, blind obedience is. And no amount of sanctimonious Elizabeth Warren rants will change my perspective on that. She can yell into the microphone all she wants with her blood vessels popping out of her neck and her freaking eyeballs about to spit out of her freaking skull. She can turn red in the face like a damn tomato. I don't care. People are allowed to ask questions. People are allowed to have intellectual curiosity. And most importantly, the American people have the right to transparency. And that is all that RFK is fighting for. And yet here we are, they vilify him, they mock him, they smear him. And boy, has it backfired. He's now sitting with the highest approval rating in the administration. The people trust RFK Jr. He was part of the ticket unofficially. They voted for RFK. They still support him. And very simply, they want somebody who's going to go there and do things honestly based on their behalf. They want a healthcare system that serves them, not the pharmaceutical giants. They want food that's safe to eat. And that, my friends, is exactly what RFK Jr. is fighting for. At least, that's one man's opinion. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.